Megyn Kelly had Erica Kirk at the final stop of her live tour. Of course, it was in Arizona. And on paper, it sounded like what it was supposed to be. An emotional moment. A widow honoring her late husband. A woman stepping onto stage not to perform, but to process grief. The audience was ready for something raw, vulnerable, maybe a little bit awkward, but ideally within the bounds of human decency. And that is not what they got, because what started off as a tribute quietly transformed to something else entirely. And one moment supercharged all the speculation out there. A moment that took questions and sharpened them. And one shocking admission that somehow made the entire situation feel even more bizarre, not less. We're going to get into all that in a moment, but before we do, I'm going to ask you to take a moment to make sure you're subscribed. Turn those notifications on, because this moment didn't happen in a vacuum. It arrived when things were already bad and somehow found a way to lower the bar. Because in the same news cycle, Usha Vance was photographed publicly taking a podium in Jacksonville, North Carolina during a visit to Camp Lejeune without her ring. This moment was so stunning. She was seen smiling and glowing. I mean, not gonna lie, she looked really happy, and it generated so much speculation that her spokesperson issued a statement that somehow managed to really lean into coded language and gendered stereotypes. The second lady's spokesperson told people that there was no problem with her and JD's marriage, that Usha Vance is a mother to 3 young children and does a lot of dishes and gives a lot of baths and forgets her ring sometimes. Twitter users were quick to point out that they couldn't find any pics of her without her ring on before this North Carolina trip. And with another person saying, so her spokesperson thinks that Vance's wife lives in the 1950s, where the wife cooks and cleans and bathes the children while the father goes out to earn his keep. And they thought that was better than saying, hey, they're getting separated so he can marry Erica Kirk. MAGA, right? This was the first thing that came to my mind too. Like, honestly, somehow they managed to turn all of this into coded reassurance to conservative values, emphasizing traditional family roles rather than directly saying the rumor is false. Let's shift the focus from Usha Vance as an individual to her domestic labor, reducing her identity to chores and childcare instead of autonomy or professionalism. A comment that so oddly framed everything that it almost felt ironic on purpose. Somehow, in trying to quiet the speculation, the phrasing made it even more uncomfortable, dated, defensive, and strangely, unnecessarily gendered, trying to distract their base with reassurance of, don't worry guys, we've still got our conservative values and we're still going to play into a trope that women are forgetful and way too busy with home life. And moreover, from a PR perspective, I can't help but say, like, it is so weird a publicist even addressed this ring rumor. Most political spouse rumors get ignored, not officially dignified with a statement. Responding publicly and so swiftly really just elevates the story instead of letting it die quietly, which was a choice, especially given this occurs weeks after the vice president revealed a stark religious divide in his marriage with Usha. He is a devout Catholic while she is Hindu, publicly disrespecting her on a stage. But even that wasn't the strangest part. The real story was Erica, because before she took that stage, the internet had already been circulating around older moments, fragments of speeches and clips that made people pause when watching them. One of those clips was simple, but it was strange.
You did get married.
Yes.
You have 2 kids.
2 precious babies.
And you told me this in private, but how many kids did you guys want to have?
We wanted to have 4. Yeah. And I was praying to God that I was pregnant when he got murdered.
Oh, wow. I thought of that once. Just like whether it was meant to be or whether we'd get news like that.
I was like, oh, goodness, that would be the ultimate blessing out of this catastrophe. So now when I see young couples, I tell them, please, like, don't put it off. Especially if you're a young woman, don't put it off. You can always have a career. You can always, go back to work. You can never just go back to having children. And they grow so fast and so quickly. But I was praying, both of us were. We were really excited to just expand our family.
Thank God you have the 2.
I know.
Thank God.
Boy and girl. I know.
One day they'll find out. Right now they're just little loves. And one day they'll find out that they're Charlie Kirk's children, and they'll know what that means.
It's honestly wild how somebody can take a moment about grief and turn it into a moment of telling people to casually go get pregnant, like it's some cute little life hack. It completely ignores the fact that not everyone even wants kids. And like, people are allowed to have their own plans and priorities without being guilted into reproducing on command. And the financial part, please. Acting like having a baby is just some fun, spontaneous activity instead of a massive economic commitment just shows lack of awareness. It's embarrassing. On top of that, people could actually be trying and struggling with infertility, dealing with miscarriages, 1 in 4, or just emotionally raw. And now they're supposed to laugh at being told, just go get pregnant. The tone is so off. It comes across so careless and so painfully out of touch. Like empathy just completely left the room. Either way, the moment went on way, way too long. And then came a second one, which was much darker in contrast and heavier in impact.
I know you don't ever feel angry against God, but I kind of do. I mean,
I understand.
How do you make sense of that? And do you have any anger when you think about it? Not towards the Lord, but in general.
The enemy would love for me to be angry. He would love it. He would love it.
It is so weird watching somebody get asked about their grief and then watching them immediately flip it into this whole haters would love to see me mad thing instead of just being human for a second. People weren't asking for a performance. They weren't asking for a brand moment. They were expecting honesty, sadness, maybe something real. But instead of naming actual emotions, she jumped straight into defense mode. Like grief is something to weaponize instead of just feel. Emotions need to come up and out. It ends up sounding so hollow, like everything is filtered through critics and enemies instead of just admitting like, hey, pain exists, without turning it into some weird storyline. Then Erica Kirk addressed the viral photo caressing JD Vance's head, saying she's a deeply affectionate person and intense hugs are part of her love language. She even joked with Megyn Kelly that if she grabbed JD Vance's ass instead, people wouldn't be nearly as mad, and said that those people just really need a hug.
Please. So for those of you who know me, I hug.
Yes, like, you're an intense hugger.
Whoever is like hating on a hug needs a hug themselves. I will give you a free hug anytime you want a hug. My love language is touch, if you will. But seriously, that hug. So I will give you a play-by-play. I'm walking. They just played the emotional video. I'm walking over, he's walking over, I'm starting to cry. He says, he's so proud of you. And I say, God bless you. And I touch the back of his head. Anyone who I've hugged that I have touched the back of your head when I hug you, I always say, God bless you. That's just me. If you want to take that out of context, go right ahead. Again, that to me shows that you need a hug more than anyone else. So if anyone...
They were acting like you touched the back of his ass.
I feel like I wouldn't get as much hate if I did that versus... But no, seriously, so now when I go and hug people, I'll bring them back in and be like, I obviously didn't give you the right hug. Let me touch
Where do the hands go?
I don't know what to do with my hands.
What can I touch?
I know.
It's not me. I'm always like, if you touch the back of my head, I'm like, oh, she's feeling the extensions.
That's another thing. People think my hair is fake. It is very real.
My hairstylist told me your hair is real. She's like, oh no, that's all real.
This is real.
How is it real?
They like come and touch the back of my head. I'm like, what are you doing?
They're feeling this from the weave.
Yeah.
They're patting the weave.
Okay, listen, that was a lot. Let me start with there's a difference between being emotional and being inappropriate. And her explanation of her head caressing moment with JD Vance absolutely managed to make me even more uncomfortable again. We didn't need to go back there. Nobody asked to go back there. I would actually like to permanently delete that moment from my memory, but I can't because Erica calling physical touch her love language in reference to hugging the sitting vice president is just weird. The kind of language that it should be reserved for romantic or intimate relationships. This type of language is not commonly used to describe interactions with a senior public official like the vice president. It's inappropriate to justify that type of physical contact in such a weird way. It made a public political moment feel strangely private, like something I just didn't want to see or be a part of. And saying that anyone she touches on the back of their head gets a God bless you. it made it sound like kind of a weird kind of personal ritual, but she's not a pastor. She's not doing the blessings of the Lord. She's the CEO of a right-wing political organization, for-profit one too, interacting with the vice president. When she started walking back through that moment step by step, what she thought where her hand went, I just thought, please stop narrating this. We already saw it against our will. We lived through it. We don't need to do this again. But Erica Kirk kept going and describing her internal monologue during that head caressing moment. And it didn't help anyone. I don't think that clarified anything. I think it just tightened everyone's shoulder and certainly my chest. And what makes it even weirder is she never once acknowledged the most obvious thing, that this was weird. She could have gained some credibility here and said, like, look, I understand why people felt uncomfortable. I'm on a lot of medication right now. I'm just sort of surviving through the thick fog of grief. But nothing, like no self-awareness. And somehow, again, she walked through it with even more details and some spiritual lens, like leave God out of this. She doesn't want to be involved and she did not consent. But then the final cherry on top, she makes a joke about grabbing his ass. That moment, it forced me to need to take a break. There are some sentences that do not need to exist. There are some images that should not be introduced to the human brain. I do not need to picture J.D. Vance in any sexual content ever for the rest of my life. And listen, I get she's grieving. She's been through something horrible. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, even somebody I so fundamentally disagree with. And I can have empathy and say at the same time, this was weird. This was bizarre. Both things can be true. And if this video has expanded your perspective or you've enjoyed any moment of it, please take a moment to subscribe. We cover stories like this all the time and not grow without your support.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.